Well, we're out here in and listen to that. Nothing.
Well, my birthday was coming up, and my good friends Cassandra and Christine had been planning a cabin getaway with Marla and I for the better part of a year. We had done our best the previous season to get enough wood cut and on the dry to keep us going for the brunt of the 2 weeks we had scheduled off to be out there. So, we packed our bags, borrowed some sleds from Jerry and Lily, brought some food and drink to supplement the near gluttonous amount that the ladies brought along for everyone, and we took to the road. Given that we stayed on private property, I'll go as far as to say that we were to spend the next 2 weeks in the Parry Sound District. Once we parked out by the trailhead, we had a 3-kilometer snowshoe ahead of us, which we had to do 3 times in order to bring the 2 full loads of gear and provisions we had prepped for our stay.
Hi everyone. Well, we're on our second trip into camp pulling sleds. Might be able to see anyone back there on the trail. They're a bit behind me, I guess. Anyway, it's coming on to dark. It's about 6 o'clock, so I guess spring is coming. But this is the 6th kilometer, 9 kilometers overall, about 6 pulling sleds. And I didn't even get the first 3 done before I busted through my snowshoes. So now I'm just booting it. And it's a bit chilly, as maybe evidenced by my beard. But we're making do. Let's see if we can see them on the trail yet. Oh yeah, there they come. You can see the light flashing there behind. Anyway, fun times in the woods.
After 9 kilometers through the snow, 6 of which with heavy sleds, and without snowshoes for my part, we didn't stay up all that late, made sure the fires were going strong, and hopped into bed. As the fires dwindled through the night, we would take turns stoking them. Christine and I, being the lightest sleepers, took it upon ourselves to do this more frequently. We woke to a rather misty morning, which already neared 0 degrees, much warmer than the previous day, though trudging through the snow for 9 kilometers certainly kept us warm. Regardless of the weather, it couldn't be argued that the natural world surrounding us wasn't beautiful. It surely was.
Well, just cleared the solar panels on the other side. Looks like I'm always clearing roofs. Quite a bit of snow, but here we go. That's super satisfying, huh? Just a bit more to do.
We noticed some bird prints in the snow that first morning, and assumed it was a curious scavenger looking for an easy meal by picking through our garbage. While that certainly did happen at one point through the trip, we did a good job of keeping refuse to a minimum and stowed away from critters. We're already invaders to some extent in the wilderness. No sense in further interrupting their natural patterns.
All right, well, it's somewhere above 0 right now-ish, or very close to it. It rained a lot yesterday, which is surprising that everything is still so snowy. But there's definitely some puddling underneath some spots here. But anyway, the girls are making some foods for my birthday. It's my birthday today. I'm seeing some interesting scrapes on some small trees, which is kind of surprising, but because they're like twigs. See here on this guy. Yeah. But anyway, there's some down trees here that seem to have just broken off in the wind and whatnot. I'm gonna cut them up with the silky katana, and I've only used it so far on some punky wood, so I'm intrigued to see how it handles otherwise. But yeah, so this is my birthday. Getting out without snowshoes into a few feet of snow. Actually very sad about that, but I'll keep the frame, and I have some sinew at home and I know how to boil water, so I'll learn how to wrap and fix those snowshoes. But for the next week and a half, that's not a thing. So, and my feet are far too large, and my Sorel boots far too large to fit in any of the other pairs of snowshoes we have around. So here we go, marching through the snow, just with my giant boots, and cutting up some wood so we can keep the fires going through the next week and a half. Well, it's a little more difficult to pull some of this wood through a trail that isn't tamped down with snowshoes and is rather wet. So here's my load of wood, but boy oh boy, some of that wood, because the one tree that broke, that I believe is a balsam I bucked up part of, is still recently broken, so it's pretty green and pretty heavy. So that'll be used for next season's. We'll let it dry once we cut it up and split it. And then I got some other dead standing, but she's heavy and she's a struggle to pull through this trail. And I think the thing keeps digging in to the snow and doesn't like me very much. So, and there's another deer scrape on this tree. But yeah, either way, never a dull moment out here in the woods. Beautiful though. It looks very idyllic here. Look at all that wood. Oh yeah, especially that smile. Alright, time to process some wood.
We spent some time clearing dead standing trees and processing the wood to be put to dry, given that a fairly decent amount of our wood was used up by a previous visitor to the cabin. It didn't stay above 0 for very long, so we did take advantage of the warmth of the cabin and the warmth of the drink therein. Before we knew it, it was a nice cold day to go collect our good friend Luke and his darling little pup Heidi. We drove to a nearby town to meet, and then made our move back to camp with Luke and Heidi and their gear. Another 6 kilometers for the original 4 of us.
Well, we got Cassandra and Christine out the vehicles. Thankfully the Subaru fired up this morning, and I'm going back to make sure that Marla's alright, make sure she doesn't push herself too much. We just wanted to make sure we got to the cars and got stuff warmed up to be ready for her to drive into town, because she's got a doctor's appointment by over phone. We just need to be in signal, and then we're picking up our buddy Luke, and he's going to be joining us for a few days at the camp.
On our way out to the vehicles, Cassandra, Christine, and I went ahead in order to make sure they would start, be cleared, and be relatively warm by the time Marla got there. Marla had been dealing with some health concerns and was frequently worn down over the trip, so we each did our part to make sure she had a less physically intense experience. However, the walk to and from the camp was not avoidable. We weren't going to haul her out in a sled unless we had to. That being said, as soon as Heidi had been given to Marla to bring to camp, there was both a forced energy on Heidi's part and a renewed sense of energy on Marla's part, being such an animal lover at heart. This made the final 3 kilometers of the day far easier for all of us. That didn't mean we didn't still have work to do when we got back, but we certainly did take time that night to celebrate the new addition to our party.
What do you think, Heidi? Home sweet home.
Yeah,
What do you think, Heidi? Oh, yeah.
you're a good girl, Heidi. You did a good job of driving my sorry ass here.
Heidi, you can go? Yeah.
Oh, good girl, Heidi.
Look at that, your little beard.
Oh, good girl. Yeah.
Good girl, Heidi.
To some, it might seem like we had a decent amount of wood stacked and ready to go for our 2-week stint in the woods, and, to be fair, we did have 2 piles inside as well, one by each wood stove. But 2 weeks worth of wood, when the temperature is sliding very loosely and quickly between -30 and +5, staying mostly around -25, is an incredible amount of wood indeed. We had a lot of work ahead of us, but compared to the work we all had in our everyday lives, this was a welcome deviation. Outside felling trees together, splitting them together, playing with the fire all that wood allowed us to have together, sharing good food and drink, and sometimes not so good food and drink, great conversation, debates, many hearty laughs, and so much more is a very important part of the human experience. And I fear that not as many people really engage in much of, if any of this, in their day-to-day lives. If only we could always feel so close to people, sharing such worthwhile experiences on the regular, rather than feeling compelled to try and pause the quote-unquote real world so that we may experience what life used to be like before we all became plastered to screens all hours of the day. If only social media truly brought us all closer together, rather than isolating us and creating echo chambers for us to rule in our own individual digital fiefdoms. Is there any wonder why homesteading and so-called prepping is in vogue these days? People aren't looking for an escape from the real world. They're actually feeling the pull back towards what the real world is. This is why it's so important to get the fun outside. Because even running headlong into a tree, depending on the circumstances, can really be fun. Or at least quite funny.
Surprisingly, no.
Nailed it.
I don't know how you're getting up, though.
No, do I. Figure it out.
Oh, no, I have to.
Yay.
Woo.
Now put it back.
Success.
Success. Great success.
Great success. I put it back.
Put it back. That's what it's told.
I like that. No.
No. That was fun.